Hello, everybody. Welcome to Political Football, part of the Matty Ice Media Network. My name is Dave. I'm here with Scott and Cleve. This week, we'll be discussing the NFC and AFC title games, the outcomes, what we saw in those games, as well as discussing the coaching changes here in the NFL as well. So we're also going to aim to be done by 8:30 tonight. We should be able to get pretty close to there. So we've only got two games to go over, and I think we can manage that. So we're going to target for an 8:30 outro. But Scott, how are we doing this week?
Good, man. I'm happy to be here with you guys. It's all good. How are you?
I'm happy to be here with you guys. That's about the only thing I'm happy about right now. Cleve, how are you doing?
I'm trying to survive the Trump era, bro. 8 days in.
Yeah, this is absolutely insane. And again, there's a lot of horribleness going on, and just like the Snoop Dogg thing, this is not the biggest thing in the world. But Cleve, you see my name on screen here. Are you a supporter of these onesies? Do you know what this is a reference to?
I've heard something, but I have no idea. Enlighten me, please, sir.
Yeah, because you have like an actual day job and can't be online all day. So today was RFK Jr.'s Senate hearing to be confirmed as Health and Human Secretary, Health and Human Services Secretary. And Bernie Sanders was just giving him the full Bernie treatment, just beating him over the head over and over with his own bullshit. And apparently right now on the website of some organization RFK Jr. founded, there are onesies for babies that say not vax, no problem. They're anti-vax onesies, basically. So RFK Jr. told other senators that he's pro-vaccine. So Bernie Sanders brings up images of the onesies, and it's just, you have this very serious situation and this very serious man, Bernie Sanders. He sounds funny, but he's very serious. And he turns and he's like, are you a supporter of these onesies? And it's like, what is our lives?
He hit him over the head with the metaphorical metal chair.
Yes. I mean,
yeah.
He beat the shit out of him.
There's a t-shirt that Matt and I saw at my boys' cookout remember when what was it the inauguration like a couple years ago where Bernie was sitting with the mittens?
Yeah.
Legs crossed, the mittens. So so it was like two suppressor pistols, and he's sitting with the mittens on, bro. That's what that image you just gave me was. That Bernard was that guy.
Yeah, Bernard definitely showed up today to take it to RFK Jr. But yeah, just having to ask, are you a supporter of these onesies? But it's an earnest, good question. But we're at a place where that has to be a good question to a potential cabinet secretary is insane.
And I'm not poking fun at the guy. Is something wrong with him that he shakes when he talks like that? This guy wanted to be president, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he probably does. I'm sure he has something going on. We all know he had a brain worm at one point. So I'm sure he's got some sort of physical ailment going on. But knowing him, he probably tries to treat it by licking oregano or something instead of getting actual medicine. So maybe he has polio. I mean, he doesn't think the polio vaccine is any good, so maybe he just somehow got polio to prove a point. I have no idea.
That was the last thing we cured in this country was polio. He has to have that, right?
He's got something called what's it called? It's a spasm of his larynx.
Oh,
so it's a diagnosed thing.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to know. I just was curious about that. Scott might be able to answer this, Dave, and you might not. So I'm a 70s kid, right? And Scott, do you have on your left arm? Do you have the last? Yeah. So Dave probably doesn't have it.
No.
Yeah, Dave, you probably don't have it. It's the size of a penny almost, or a dime. A dime.
It's
a little circle on my arm. Yeah, it's we're all scarred, so we know when you were born.
That's the T.
So you were lucky not to have it. It might, I think it's the TB one.
I think, I don't,
man. So that's how.
Yeah,
so Dave has no idea what we're talking about.
On the side of your arm,
it's like a size of a dime. This is the size of a dime. Don has it. I'm pretty sure Don has it.
Yeah, no. Sorry, boomers, but no, the rest of us don't have scars left over from our vaccines. Yeah. We got the wall.
Remember it? Leave to you.
Yeah, I got it.
No, it was all no scars for us. Any other millennials in the chat can answer, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't unique to Ann Arbor. I think that was like an age thing. But Cleve, you're only 10 years older than me, so that must have stopped right in that. Like that's been like
you
harder
were
stopping sort of
my
thing.
sisters are one of my sisters is your age exactly. Yeah, they don't have it. My brother and I were like the last kids to have it. He's a bicentennial baby because he's a 76er. So after him, I think is when they stopped it. But anyone, I'm pretty sure Don has it. I can bet my arm on it. Don has it.
Yeah.
Your mom probably has it.
Smallpox. It's the smallpox.
Smallpox. There it is.
Okay. And it was discontinued in the early 70s. So, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, congratulations.
I got it on my arm.
Yeah, on your weird markings. Now, what I do have myself is a weird marking on my ass from where Saquon Barkley's been tanning my hide all season for me having out here talking this mess.
It has been belt to ass for a while, buddy.
It has been. So, Commanders 23, Eagles 55. So first of all, the Commanders decided to turn the ball over 4 times and not play a perfectly clean football game. Not that I'm bitter. I'm not angry about this at all.
Yeah. For no reason, right? Like what would you have to be upset about, Dave?
Just bullshit fumbles. Just the worst. I was so annoyed. Commanders got the ball first, had an 18-play drive, and kicked the field goal, which you always want to do after an 18-play drive. The Eagles, they got the ball, had the ball for 1 play, 60 yards, Saquon touchdown.
Yep.
And that pretty much set the tone for the rest the rest of the game. Saquon in this game, 15 carries, 118 yards, and 3 touchdowns, but not the player of the game. That goes to Jalen Hurts, 20-28 for 246 and a touchdown, 10 carries for 16 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I was surprised they did that with his knee issue, that they let him, have the ball the way
I think they were just testing it out. They probably trying to build his confidence, get him going,
Yeah, it's just, the whole tush push thing requires some level of physicality and, people at your knees and your feet and twisting and turning and all that stuff. And it's like, okay, well, I mean, if you want to go about your business that way, cool. I just didn't see it coming.
I had to explain that. I had to explain the goal line false start. Well, not the false start. The guy dove over the top twice.
Yeah.
Right. And I said that's the tush push. That's probably how they're trying to stop it. And the cadence is off, and no one's undisciplined in their lanes to just stay still. But I mean, the guy showed his hand twice. Same guy. So his assignment was get over the top, stop Jalen. It was great to see that.
In 2018, I believe it was either 17 or 18, but I think it's 18. Michigan at Minnesota. Minnesota's down 4 with the ball, like 4th and goal from the 1, and there's minimal time left. Like they either score here or they lose, right? And Michigan jumped offside trying to time the snap 6 times in a row.
Wow.
Because you could only move the ball so close, right? And the rest threatened, like if you keep it up, it's going to be a personal foul. But what are you going to do? Give them a first down, throw somebody out of the game. And then when they finally got the snap off, Michigan timed it, stopped them. Michigan won.
Yeah. Wow. Go yard stand. That's insane. Yeah.
So it does. So I think it makes sense to do that the 2 times they'll let you.
Well, I mean, you're going to give up a touchdown. You might as well try to time it and make something crazy happen.
Yeah. Fumble, something crazy could happen there.
Yeah.
My friend Ben, who's watching, just messaged me and said that was 2015 that happened. So wow, time is really flying by. That makes that the Khalil Hudson 7 tackles for a loss game, I think. Anyways, a wild AJ Brown appears in this game, 6 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. And I thought it was very interesting. Like, I don't think the Eagles probably win this game no matter what, but it's very clear that when they are able to actually pass the ball somewhat effectively, the rushing game becomes even that much more dominant, Scott.
Or vice versa, right? Like, I mean, they've been running the ball well all year. I wonder if AJ Brown's been really banged up and we haven't known about it. There's a level of physicality that dude plays with that's been kind of missing, right? For a long time. I mean, he didn't have a real dominant year like he has in the past, but in that matchup against, and maybe it's a Lattimore thing, I'm not really sure, but it seems like Lattimore pulls out the best in a lot of guys he plays against. That physicality was back, right? He looked like the badass that he is in that matchup. He just hasn't looked like that in the last. I don't remember him looking like that in say the past 6-8 games. I could be wrong.
They just haven't passed the ball a lot or well the last 6 to 8 games either.
Yeah. Maybe
he has 1,079 yards.
Yeah.
AJ Brown.
Yeah. I shouldn't be ragging on him.
Quiet year. But he said 1,079 yards. It's quiet though.
Yeah.
Seven touchdowns though. Only 7 touchdowns. So.
But when Saquon has 39 touchdowns and Jalen Hurts has run for another 30, there's not that many left for everybody else.
Yeah, true. But it could lend to what Scott's saying though. Like maybe he's low key hurt when he's not reading a book. Is that the guy that read the book?
Yeah.
So yeah.
For the Commanders, great season for them. I mean, Clev, we're here in the area. I've not heard one Commanders fan lamenting, oh, we didn't go to the Super Bowl. We didn't do this. They're all excited for next year. They know they've got their quarterback. This is, I've lived in this area for 10 years. This is the first time I've ever heard Commanders fans, 1, talk in public, and 2, be excited.
Same. Like, and Dave and I are kidding. Like, there's 2 teams in this region because Baltimore, it's only up the road. But you never see them out with their shit on. Like, where is anybody as for this team?
Commanders fans don't walk around my work with like their hats on or whatever, ever until now.
Yeah.
But some old heads. They're not Johnny come late. There's some old heads. Like, they've been Commander fans. They just haven't been that vocal about it. But yeah, they're all hyped right now. Good for them. They got their quarterback. So, they have some decent cap space. They have a lot of work to do in the offseason to really improve both their defense and their wide receiver core. Yeah. But they're going to be a team that people will want to go play for.
Yeah.
Play
with Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. And it's almost time to get into the draft stuff. I will say this right here. I'm not sure he will last this long, but Matthew Golden out of Texas at 29 to Washington would be pretty cool.
It'd be a nice fit. I wonder if a guy like T. Higgins would, because they do have some cap space and they have some abilities, right? Like he'd be a really dynamic option opposite McLaurin. Because I think then you move McLaurin around a little bit.
Yeah.
He would be your boundary sort of outside guy. I know it's total speculation, but somebody's going to pay Higgins.
Yeah.
And with Daniels' ability to layer throws and hit the boundary, man, like that would be an intriguing fit. Be really interesting.
You guys can probably answer this because you guys know the technicalities of this stuff. So the Bengals are obviously, I think Dave said it multiple times on this show that their cap is against them. They don't have money basically to do anything. Could Burrow restructure? Like, how does that work? If they want to keep a guy, do they talk anyone into restructuring?
So it's two separate issues. One is that their cap scenario is rough because they have to pay Burrow, who they just paid, no restructuring there, and they still have to pay Chase. Right?
So
Chase never signed.
They could restructure them.
Oh,
but not enough to where you can then sign T. Higgins plus other pieces you need and that sort of thing. On top of that, they're cash poor as a franchise. So they don't have the money to put into escrow for the huge guarantees. So even if they had the money to sign exactly Higgins with $100 million guaranteed or whatever, I don't know if that's realistic, but whatever, $100 million guaranteed.
Yeah. Whatever the example is, you got to put that.
They don't want to do that. They'd rather sign like 5 other players for $50 million guaranteed total because they need to keep that guaranteed number down because they just don't have the cash to put up.
You said it, Dave. They still have to sign Chase.
So
yes.
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking that is because, again, it comes back to Deshaun Watson. Like, if they're cash poor in a fucked up franchise, how like would they restructure to get pieces? Like ask him, hey, you know what? Since you're not gonna be playing much, kind of want some of that cash back. Like that doesn't work like that
for Deshaun
Watson.
Yeah, yeah. Like because obviously if they need pieces on the Browns, right, without having to shop like Myles Garrett and those guys, because they're probably building a new stadium with Garrett's name on it.
Yes,
but like,
they are.
How does that work? How does that work? Like to say, hey, you know what? We need like two running backs, a tight end, and a wide receiver. And Deshaun, you've gotten half of your money is that probably. So do they make him restructure? Can he restructure if he wants to stay on the team? Like, how does that work? Or
he's
the
already
money
got
been
all
paid
his
out?
money. He's got his guaranteed money. He's got all that stuff. So
yeah,
it's the cap hit that's the issue. But the bigger lingering problem that has to get resolved is if he retore that Achilles doing something,
I think he's done.
If he did it away from football, they're going to be able to walk away from that contract. They're going to be able just to move off of it. Well, he long-term IR and just.
Well, we know it happened outside the facility and outside the act of football. But if it happened because he stepped off a curb crossing the street, they still have to pay him. If he was trying to play pickup basketball or go-karting, or
if he was not following doctor's orders,
right,
and you're supposed to wear a boot for 3 months, there is a TikTok video of him in Miami, I believe, not wearing the boot. And he complained, yes, in that 3-month window, and he complained that he rolled his ankle, right? So, the Browns are going to do everything they can to just move on from him.
Oh, yeah, there's a guy watching him right now. There's a guy with binoculars watching him right now.
You probably, but like,
if you know what I mean.
The Browns they're gonna do everything in their power to here's your guaranteed money. You get all that. That's fine. Go away. And then they get to reset things and all that stuff. But how quickly that happens, I don't know. But a guy like Watson won't be able to restructure because it just pushes money into the future.
Right. Oh. The thing with the Bengals is that the reason they knew they couldn't re-sign T. Higgins after this year. They could have traded him, but they thought they could win the Super Bowl this year. And it seems kind of silly now because they missed the playoffs. They finished either 8-9 or 9-8, but they started 1-3, 1-4. So they were way better across the last 3 quarters of the season. And they actually probably are a Super Bowl caliber team. At least they should have been in Houston's place in the Final Four.
Yes.
So I understand why they didn't trade T. Higgins when they had the opportunity, but now he's going to walk away from them for nothing. So they're really, the whole T. Higgins thing is actually really going to hurt them here. And I think the Commanders are a perfect fit for T. Higgins.
There's a bunch of places there's a bunch of teams that could use a guy like T. Higgins. So there's not going to be a shortage of teams wanting to overpay him in this cycle.
Yeah. Speaking of the Jets, another person, if the Commanders don't want to put a bunch of long-term money at receiver, I bet Devontae Adams wouldn't mind going to the Commanders.
I'm sure he would love to go there.
Playing with Jaden Daniels. Yeah. He'd probably like that quite a bit. All right, next week we'll be actually previewing the Super Bowl, so we'll leave the Eagles and that stuff for then. Couple notes, though. Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson were both obviously playing injured in this game. They have 2 more weeks to get more healthy and feel better for the Super Bowl, but I'm sure they're going to play there. And I realize that in this Super Bowl that either the Chiefs will win 3 in a row or we have to call Nick Sirianni a Super Bowl champion. And I don't want either of these at the same level.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
Seems good though. They've done a good job, but then again, you look at some of these moves, and you remember how people love Jordan Davis in the draft? What's he done?
He was pretty big in this game.
It's kind of the first opportunity for him to show anybody anything. He's really been very quiet as an NFL player, and a lot of the Georgia guys that they've brought in have.
I wonder. So yes and no. Some of the Georgia guys they brought in, they did draft later into the draft. I don't watch the Eagles tape. The only teams whose like tape I watch is Michigan. But I wouldn't be shocked with how good the defense has been this year after being bad last year if it's a case of like Jordan Davis is absorbing blockers, allowing Nakobe Dean and whatever safety to flow to the ball, or like if he's not racking up stats, but he's like you have to account for him. If you don't block him, it's an issue, and so he's freeing up like a Tony Siragusa type.
Yeah, I mean that's a possibility, but I think what's happened is they drafted a Pro Bowl type corner who had a Pro Bowl kind of season as a rookie.
They drafted 2 of them.
Cooper DeJean is not a corner. He's a safety.
That's
regardless. He has played really good, right? But it's allowed everybody to slot in where they need to be. So Darius Slay becomes kind of your number 2 as an older player, and he's perfect there, right? And then Cooper DeJean's been really good as a slot corner, sort of, overhang, whatever, not necessarily a boundary corner player, but still really good. He's had a really good season, and they've gotten production out of those guys. And Jalen Carter's been he's a dude, right? Like he is. So they landed one there. They took a chance, and so far that decision's been working for them.
And I don't want to get to a whole thing here. We're going to move on to Bills and Chiefs. I just want to make the point that the Lions traded down from 6 to 12. Then I traded down twice, but they traded down from 6 to 12 where they took Jahmyr Gibbs, and the Eagles took Carter, I think, at 9.
They did. Jalen Carter was not on the Lions draft board. Guaranteed. He was not. I know
the Lions could have taken Jalen Carter instead of Jahmyr Gibbs, Jackson Smith and Jigba instead of Jack Campbell, and they'd have 2 really good players, both making the Pro Bowl this year at much more high-value positions, even though Gibbs is phenomenal. I mean, he's unreal good. And Jack Campbell is very good at his position as well.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that I'm not saying if somebody were to tell me, no, Gibbs was the right pick over Jalen Carter, I don't think so, but fine, whatever. They're both great. But the fact that Jahmyr Gibbs could be that good and it's still a conversation goes to show how risky it is to take running back that high. Because if Jahmyr Gibbs was 10% less good than he is, this would be a disaster. Jalen Carter.
The reason why this conversation has to get extended into the future is the Jalen Carter problems still exist. The reason why Jalen Carter is not on the Lions draft board is the off the field stuff.
Yeah, it's not because of his play on the field. Yeah,
correct. So there's a lot to be determined as far as like how did their careers play out. Jalen Carter on the field is as dominant a defensive tackle as there is.
Yeah,
he is.
Yeah. But he has a tendency towards dumb shit. So like we could get some breaking news that.
Yeah, but these are NFL dudes. They all have a tendency to do dumb things at times. You know what I mean? Like they're like the punch he threw at the Washington interior lineman is just like a really. Did you see that? Like that was. I don't know what you're doing there, punching a guy in a helmet, like in the face mask, like right. But he's an NFL defensive tackle. They're willing to do things that normal people are not. He's a phenomenal football player. He really is. He's so disruptive and powerful and all that stuff. It's going to be really interesting to juxtapose those two, though, like you're saying, Dave, throughout their careers, to see how it works out. It's interesting.
Bills 29, Chiefs 32. Josh Allen is now 0-4 against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. I chalk this up to variance. I think this game ended up being a 50-50 game in the end. I think the game a couple years ago, the crazy overtime game, was 50-50. Literally, the coin toss determined who was going to win that game.
Yeah.
I think Josh Allen could easily be 2-2 in this situation. So I don't think this reflects anything on Josh Allen at all.
I don't think so either. And I think there's people kind of gnashing their teeth at that fourth down play, but there's a lot there. Kansas City just dialed up almost the perfect blitz for the play call.
Yeah.
I don't know what, again, variance, don't know.
Well, I'll give you an example here, Cleve, of what I mean by the variance. the fourth down play we're all talking about, last play for the Bills, right? The Chiefs blitz off the corner. Allen rolls to the right to get past it, has to chuck up something. Dalton Kincaid has a chance. It doesn't make the catch. Chiefs win the game, right? That was 4th and 5.
Mm-hmm.
The play before that was 3rd and 10. And they threw a quick wide receiver screen to Amari Cooper. Both other receivers out there, perfect blocks on their defensive backs. That should have been a 58-yard game-winning touchdown. They got the exact look they wanted, the exact call they wanted, and perfect execution. George Karlaftis, the defensive end for Kansas City, read the play and was able to have the athleticism to sprint out there and tackle Amari Cooper as he was about to break downfield.
Yep.
Like, if George Karlaftis is half a step slower, we're having a whole different conversation today. Because the play before that was right there, was right on, was blocked perfect, and it just was one great play by a Kansas City player that actually saved the game for Kansas City. So, any talk about Josh Allen, I'm really just not hearing. Like, to me, Josh Allen has proven in these games that he is also an all-time great quarterback. He is a Hall of Fame level quarterback, and he's a championship level quarterback. And like Marino or Phillip Rivers, he may never actually get there. And he may never actually win because of the gauntlet he has to go through. But to me, the way these games have gone have told me that Josh Allen is him. And I mean, any sort of talk about he can't do it, he can't whatever, I'm just not here for. Cleve, what are your thoughts?
He's the modern day Peyton Manning, and Mahomes is Brady. It's just like that. It's, if there wasn't a Mahomes in the league talking about Josh like this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it took me 3 years to come around that the guy was a viable quarterback, because I used to kill him first season of political football.
Yeah, our first season of this show was Josh Allen's second year, his breakout year.
Yeah, so
and going into that year, I was like, Josh Allen's going to be that guy. He's going to break out this year.
Yeah, no, you called it.
Yeah,
yeah, you had the keys to the DeLorean.
that was one of my better calls. I'm not going to lie.
But yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. It's just we may never see him win one, because he does have the hardest kind of path to it, which will make it even sweeter that he had to go through all of that to win it. But I felt bad for the guy, not because he had a great season, MVP caliber season. I just feel bad because, like, we're tired of Mahomes. At least a lot of us are. But again,
they gotta get home field advantage. That is like,
yes,
that's the
they
key
need that
for them, right?
You do not want to go to Arrowhead.
Like,
yeah, them and Baltimore.
I think Dave said that weeks ago. Yeah, Dave said that week.
Yeah. It's such a problem to go to Kansas City and play, because Mahomes there's just so much there, but he's an all-timer, man. Like,
Cleve, you're cutting in now a little bit. Go ahead and reset your StreamYard. I'll add you back when you get back. Going to Kansas City is a nightmare, and I don't understand why Baltimore and Buffalo don't take the regular season more seriously. And
yeah, I mean, this year there's nothing. I mean, what were they? 15? Were they 15-2 or whatever? 16-1, whatever it was.
The Chiefs were 15-2.
Yeah, so it's not. I'm sure they tried and they did everything they could, but the path is about having a home game against Kansas City. It just is.
Yeah.
Until then, it's like, going on the road, whatever vibes there are in that stadium with Mahomes, and Mahomes is an all-timer, man. We're seeing him in the middle of just this incredible run. What are you gonna do?
Sorry, I think the White House thinks this show is DEI, so I got
oh boy,
fuck off. So I'm back.
Am I the DEI hire?
You are. In fact, you indeed are.
The dumbass.
But I don't know how much of what if you guys caught what I was saying about Mahomes is, we want to see somebody new, and there's enough talent in the league to go around. But as I said last week on the show, until you go,
I
know you need to play. You need to play in your home stadium against them.
Yes,
you go to Arrowhead, the refs are against you, the fans are against you, and that team's gonna shine in that stadium. So You got to take them somewhere in the back alley and beat the shit out of them.
Agreed, Cleve.
Because they're beatable. They're completely beatable.
Yeah.
Cleve, you're having some
and we
internet
said
issues.
that you got to beat them.
Yep.
Cleve, close every tab except for StreamYard. See if that helps. See if produce the show during the show. Speaking of which, Scott, I know you remember this. Cleve, let's see if you remember this. What the Bills did with their first round pick in the 2024 draft. Cleve, do you remember?
2024 draft. What did they do? No, I don't.
Scott, go ahead and remind them. But don't tell them what they just tell them the first step of what they did, not the players.
Buffalo and Kansas City made a trade in round 1.
The Bills were on the clock at number 28. They traded back to 32, allowing Kansas City to come up. Kansas City drafted fastest 40 in the combine history, Xavier Worthy. The Bills then drafted Keon Coleman, wide receiver out of Florida State, who both Scott and I did not like at all during the pre-draft process. In this game, Xavier Worthy, 6 catches, 85 yards, and a touchdown, 2 carries for 16 yards. Keon Coleman, 1 catch, 12 yards.
Yeah.
That's a meme. Is Xavier Worthy that really fast kid?
Yes.
He ran a 4.21. Interestingly, they don't use him like that at all, though.
They don't.
Nope. Everything is short. Not necessarily in that game, but this year it has been. Mm-hmm. This would be an interesting year for what Buffalo decides to do at the receiver position. Because as much as you want to give Keon Coleman some time, they need more than they need. Even if he were to emerge and you have Khalil Shakir, you still need more. And this is the point. You need, if you have a little more, you might be able to pull that game out. You need more.
How is it his fault though if he's not getting targets? Is he not? Are they not trusting him, or is he not getting separation? He's not getting open.
So you're sort of hitting on it towards the end there. Earning targets is a skill. That's why backup wide receivers don't immediately produce when the person from them gets hurt the way running backs do. Because running backs are like, we need another running back. You get the ball, and they go out and do a little something. But wide receivers, you have to be able to earn targets, and not only earn targets, but it's easiest to earn targets if you're the first read on a play, and you'll get more first reads on plays if you're better able to earn targets, right? So because Keon Coleman is a downfield contested catch player and not a real target earner, he doesn't get a lot of first read targets, right? And then he can't get a bunch of targets either, because if the play breaks down, Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel and Amari Cooper are all going to be better at getting open, right? That's why, I didn't like Keon Coleman as a prospect anyways, and comparing these two is actually a mistake, because the real issue is that they both made a mistake by not taking Ladd McConkey, because they both passed on Ladd, and that's what they should have done.
Yeah.
But
the Bills, I understand why the Bills didn't, though, because they have Shakir, and it's like tiny slot receiver. They drafted the player for the prototype that they needed. It's just not necessarily going to be a player, I think, that works out for them. We'll see.
But the other issue here isn't that they passed on Worthy, it's that they allowed Kansas City to take him.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's where I don't know if I make that trade with Kansas City. I think I might just stand pat and just take Coleman at 28 and pray.
Yeah.
Right. Or trade back to somebody else in front of Kansas City, or trade back behind Kansas City or something like that. Because I bet the Bills, we're taking a receiver. This is our order, but they'd have been happy with Pearsall or McConkey or anybody kind of in that range. So I think the issue is that they traded with Kansas City and allowed Kansas City to get a player that's perfect for them.
Now, Xavier Legette would have been a better option for Buffalo than Keon Coleman. That kind of thing. That's a guy who's got some freaky athleticism and all kinds of stuff to go along with the area where you're drafting him. He could have gone off in that system.
Yeah. And I know that Brandon Beane's their GM. I think that's his name. he would say, well, we want to stay in the first round. So we have the 5th-year option if the player explodes. You know, we want to have that option and that sort of thing. And I'm like, yes, I understand that. I think that's an important thing to consider. But not giving Kansas City the player they want is probably more important for you specifically because you're both in a win-now situation.
Yeah, and then in the future, think about if Worthy becomes worthy of, that trade up for Kansas City, how dangerous does he become towards the middle and end of Mahomes' career?
Yeah, and it's not like he needs Xavier Worthy does not need to be he doesn't need to be Tyreek Hill. He just needs to be a good Mecole Hardman.
Yeah.
Right. Mecole Hardman, a good Kadarius Toney. Like those guys, but good at playing football.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a disaster for Buffalo having to deal with this guy.
Yeah.
For the next few years. So I think that was a major mistake. We called it a mistake on draft night, Scott. So this isn't revisionist history for us.
Well, it's just, it's year one. So we'll see.
Well, I don't know. You only get so many times the AFC title game, and
this is true.
It sure did not work out here.
I imagine it's not Buffalo's last opportunity. They'll get more kicks at the can, and Kansas City will as well. We'll be talking about this in a year.
Do you mean more kicks at the Kansas City?
You're welcome. Possibly, but I'm not a thinker, so I didn't think about that.
I was thinking laces out. The Scott Norwood thing.
By the way, I saw on Blue Sky yesterday that yesterday was the 60th birthday of the Dolphins player who checked out Jim Carrey's package in the Ace Ventura movies. So happy birthday to him.
What?
You remember that in the urinal and Jim Carrey's trying to see if he's got the ring missing and the other player's like looking back and smiles at him? That's a real Dolphins player. He was the center. So like
that's funny.
It was his birthday yesterday. So it popped up all over the timeline because it was funny. That's one of those movies, by the way, that was amazing when I was a kid and is still really funny, but it shows like why jokes do have to mature over time.
Yeah.
Like those same jokes nowadays would not be funny, but they were funny then. So they're still funny, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's okay. It's okay that Sonny Jurgensen played for the Redskins, but not okay that like Donovan McNabb did.
It's like watching the Austin Powers movies with your kids, right? Yeah. I'm laughing and they're like, what are you laughing about? It's not funny at all. Yeah. It's just a guy.
It's like,
no, that's Fat Bastard. That's hilarious. But yeah, that's a whole different thing.
It's like watching the Bad News Bears, the original one with Walter Matthau. Dave, you probably missed it. That could not be made. That could not be made today.
No, yeah.
That could not.
But the thing is, I don't want to say could not be. It could be. It's just the humor evolves over time. And so when you look back, like humor should always be pushing the edge. And as you look back, it should be way past behind the edge. So like when Jim Carrey's like, oh my God, Einhorn's the man, starts freaking out and like putting the plunger to his face. Like that's really funny and cutting edge in 1994.
Your gun is digging into my hip.
Yeah. But like nowadays it'd be like, that's not, you're just sort of making fun of trans people. That's not funny. Like, but you can have the same thing be funny. You just got to do it differently. But yeah, that's what, but that was on the timeline yesterday. So happy birthday to that guy. NFL coaching changes 2025. So far, there have been 6 head coaches hired. The Saints are still waiting to hire somebody. I think they're the last team, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's not going to matter. That person's getting fired in 2 years.
I think that'll be Kellen Moore, which is wild.
I think he's up for it.
But yeah.
Well, he's definitely getting fired in 2 years.
Yeah.
First, this is just an order that the hires happened, I believe. So, number 1, New England Patriots hire Mike Vrabel. The Patriots fired Gerard Mayo after 1 year and hired a white guy. On the one hand, Mike Vrabel got the most out of the Titans while he was their coach. On the other hand, no one else was really clamoring to hire him. Did he turn everybody else down because he always wanted to go back to the Patriots? Or does everybody else know that maybe he's not as good as he looks?
2 things could be true.
They can be.
Both things can be true.
It's he's a perfect fit for the Patriots. The Patriots are okay. Is it possible the Patriots, because they had Belichick for so long, have sort of gotten sort of lost in the new NFL because they haven't had to go look for coaches and haven't had to figure out how to do things in the modern world.
Mm-hmm.
And the Jared Mayo hire coming from within was a throwback approach. And now Vrabel, a year later, is the same type of approach. And it leaves you kind of feeling like the Patriots haven't had to understand what's happening in modern NFL stuff and still don't. That feels like I'm throwing darts blindfolded, but maybe there's something there. I don't know.
Yeah,
no, I think you said it perfectly.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
No. Yeah, no, I understood. I was speaking for Dave as well. We understood what you're saying. I think what Dave said about both things being possibly true, or at least I said that they probably wanted him all along, and they just took a shot with Gerard Mayo to kind of maybe fill the diversity thing out, but knowing that Vrabel was the guy. But it also could be that he's also an asshole outside of whatever, and they just said, fuck it, we'll take a shot at him. He's one of us. He's been here,
Yeah, and he's royalty there, so I mean that makes sense. But it's just it makes you wonder. At some point in time, they're going to have to catch up because they have been left behind. Look at that roster.
Yeah, roster is barren. However, they do have Pro Bowl quarterback Drake May,
which I cannot believe. You could have told me a year ago that was a thing. I would have said, "What planet are we on?" Because Dave,
Cleve, would you? Yeah, Cleve, would you believe that Drake May is the number 2 quarterback on the Pro Bowl roster for the AFC? Who's the number 3 quarterback for the AFC?
In the AFC.
Scott, do you know?
I don't. Okay. Russell Wilson.
Yes.
That's a total guess.
No, You're joking.
It's Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson made this year because 5 AFC quarterbacks are out.
Yeah.
Good for him. Wow.
He's going to get cut by the Steelers, but hey, he made the Pro Bowl, so he's got that going for him. Number 2, coaching hire here, to me, the biggest one of the offseason so far, or at all, because the Saints don't matter. Chicago Bears hire Ben Johnson, Lions offensive coordinator. This makes my fears after the Bears' close loss to Detroit on Thanksgiving a reality. I thought that in that game on Thanksgiving that the Lions lost, or the Lions won, because Matt Eberflus has never seen a clock before in his life. I thought Caleb Williams showed enough in that game where Ben Johnson would be like, yeah, I can work with this guy. I can do something with this. And I know he wants to say it's kind of close to Detroit. He's got family stuff here or whatever. So I was just like, man, I would want Caleb to just shit the bed in this game. But as soon as they have, I was like, that's going to be a prime spot for Ben Johnson, and that's what he picked. Ben Johnson could have gone anywhere that he wanted. He chose Chicago, so it's very clear that he wants to be with the Bears and with Caleb Williams. And DJ Moore has been fully erect since this was announced.
You think? Like, he is going to go off because he's going to play the Amon-Ra St. Brown role in that offense. Good luck stopping that.
But he's going to get the Jameson Williams end arounds.
Okay, that's fine.
To go with it.
It's
as soon as markets open, I'm betting DJ Moore Offensive Player of the Year.
It's a reasonable thing because whatever the slot position is inside that offense is the driver of that offense. If you're missing a running back, and Chicago currently is, who knows what happens in the draft? I think there's some speculation that they really like or want to take Janty to kind of fill out, right?
Please do.
But they need a lot more. They don't have the offensive line the Lions do, but still, it's a really interesting fit. And it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams to see what they can do, because he's not Goff. He never will be. So my assumption is Ben Johnson's a smart dude, and he's going to change some of the things they do to fit the things that Caleb Williams likes to do. So, it's a dangerous pairing. And as a Lions fan, it's like, that division's tough enough already. McCarthy's going to make the Vikings a nightmare. He just is.
But if the Bears take Gene T, that will remove them from being super competitive. I mean, the Lions took Gibbs when the Super Bowl window just opened.
Yeah.
And it's still like, wow, he's great. But was that really the best way to spend that capital? And he's like one of the 3 best running backs of football.
Yeah.
The Bears do not have an open window. It'd be like the Falcons taking Bijan. Sure, he's great. Who gives a shit, right?
Yeah, they need offensive.
The Panthers taking McCaffrey. So I hope the Bears do that. I think that'd be great for the Lions. But I think that Ben Johnson is too smart to do that.
He's not the GM. We'll see.
That's true. Did they fire Ryan Poles?
They did not. Yeah. Yes.
The dog shit is still on the shoe.
That's a great way to put it.
Speaking of dog shit, the New York Jets hire Aaron Glenn.
So we talked about this last week a little bit. He is going to fix their culture immediately.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be, I shouldn't say immediately because that's never how things go. But the guys that don't fit in that culture, that room, are going to go away very quickly.
So they have 3 players left?
No, they'll be fine. They have like Quinnen Williams is a dude.
Yes.
Garrett Wilson's a baller. Breece Hall's a really good player. They have players. They have talent there. It's just, what do they do at quarterback, which is not necessarily an Aaron Glenn thing, but culture-wise, they're going to get it. I mean, you saw the press conference, and I know, everybody, all these coaches want to make a statement and all that stuff, but he's legit. He really is. I don't love the way he calls games as a coordinator, but he's the head coach now. So his job is all about culture and getting the team rolling in the right direction. It's important stuff. So yes. I think he's fine.
And sorry, Clev, we'll let you go here because you are the Jets fan here. They have your Senators hat on.
Sorry.
But 1 second first. Couple things. One, the Jets replaced the young and upcoming defensive-minded Robert Saleh with the young and upcoming defensive-minded Aaron Glenn. So I'm sure that's great. Glenn has a huge project on his hands. The Jets have no quarterback. They're losing Devontae Adams, and they have a culture of absolute failure for the last 15 years, right? Really sort of stinking up the joint. So he has to get over that. The main thing, though, for the Lions have been good because Ben Johnson is a genius. Brad Holmes has built a great roster, and Dan Campbell is the best coach at going for it on 4th down. Did Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson pick up this skill? And if they didn't, does it even matter they were with the Lions, Clev? Because without Dan Campbell's just balls on the table every single 4th down, can they even replicate what he did?
I think yes. I think yes. If they were paying attention and learn anything from him, it would do them, an immense credit to say, hey, I'm from this coaching tree, and I should be doing that. But again, without having a quarterback to kind of smooth things over to build around, it's a very big elephant in the room, because the quarterback, as we all know, that's your CEO. That's everything that we need on the field. And obviously, Rodgers, we've seen enough. At least I've seen enough, and I can speak for probably Jets Nation. We've seen enough of that. I didn't know Adams was leaving. I guess it made sense when we picked him up how the contract looked. But if I was him, I'd be out of there too, because hopefully Glenn walks in and has his own thing and not say I'm keeping guys because whatever. So I think getting to what you said about the cultural change, it's more so like, hey, I'm gonna come clean up the stink, take dog shit off both these shoes in this place. And if that's the case, I welcome that. We need a winning culture. We need a winning culture. We need to.
I as a Jets fan, be excited about this. I think the reason why Dan Campbell, why it feels like for those of us who are fans, feels like his balls fill up a dump truck, is because Aaron Glenn's dude too. He's the same guy.
Yeah.
Like, so some of that bravado, some of that stuff comes from Aaron Glenn, because he's their defensive coordinator. He's instilling culture too. So from a culture standpoint, of all the guys that got hired in this whatever you want to call it, Aaron Glenn might be the best guy to change the culture of a franchise in a room as fast as possible. Like, he's already doing it. So that's as important as anything else is. everything else will kind of resolve itself. Look, I mean, Dan Quinn did that with Washington.
It's crazy that, Dan Campbell played for the Lions at one point, and then when you look at old tape of him on the field, now he's the coach of the team. Aaron Glenn is the same thing. I'm like, wow, this guy ended up being the coach, ended up getting a shot at being the coach. But again, different from the Gerard Mayo thing, he actually coached somewhere and cut his teeth somewhere versus like somebody saying, hey, I co-signed him. Like what?
Yeah.
So
Aaron
I'm
Glenn,
all for it.
Aaron Glenn, if we recall back to 3 seasons ago now, I wanted Aaron Glenn fired immediately after the Seahawks and Geno Smith put up 5 touchdowns on the Lions, because I was like, if you give up 5 touchdowns to Geno Smith, you're ass. But Geno ends up winning comeback player of the year that year. The Seahawks ended up being good. And so it was like, oh, okay, it wasn't actually quite as bad as it seemed. And then just like everybody else with the Lions, they all got better and improved. So I think Aaron Glenn does deserve a shot to be a head coach. Yeah. I'm not as high on him having success as I am with Ben Johnson, but I think this is the Jets. The main thing they need is a culture change around there.
He's the
first and foremost.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No identity for that team right now.
Number 4, Las Vegas Raiders hired Pete Carroll.
Love it.
What?
I do.
Did I miss that?
Is that a real guy?
No.
This week's TikTok just got made nice and easy. It's gonna be 6 seconds long. That was.
I'm looking this up right now.
No, it's low key perfect if we think about it.
It's ridiculous for everybody involved. But
no, it's not. That team needs to embrace the suck for a few years, right? There's no young coach who's going to go there. And you mentioned it earlier. Whoever gets hired by New Orleans is fired in 2 years. No young coach is going to Las Vegas to get fired in 2 years. It's going to be nuts there. It's dysfunctional. They don't have a quarterback. There's really maybe not a path to one. Right? I mean, unless you think they really like Shedeur Sanders and he falls to them at 6, but still, this is one of those things where we're going to bottom out, and we're going to bottom out with a guy who's going to help the culture in the room. So that way, I know you don't think that, Dave. The eyes are like,
no. The eyes are because if they're planning to bottom out, then you should have traded Max Crosby to the Lions for 3 first-round picks.
Okay, maybe they will do that. I don't know. But that's what this feels like, is we need to tread water until we can get this thing pointed in the right direction. And this is a guy that can really help us get it pointed in the right direction quicker, because think about it. It's the equivalent of, in coaching terms, of bringing in a good, solid veteran quarterback instead of drafting one who has a bunch of unknowns. You bring in a young coach who you don't know anything about, good luck. You know Pete Carroll. You know what he's going to give you.
Okay. Counter argument, because my notes here are all like the antithesis of that.
Shocker.
This is such a weird move by both parties. Pete Carroll is 94 years old, and the Raiders are not in a position to win now. Are the Raiders hoping that Cheaty Petey can bring some stability and class to an organization that has not had it since Al Davis just lost, baby? There is no way the Raiders think Pete Carroll is going to come in and lead them past the Chargers and Chiefs, right?
That ain't happening. It's not. That's not going to happen. They're not getting past Denver or the Chiefs or they're just not.
They could get past Denver.
Not next year. Likely not in 2 years, no matter what they do. Especially if they're moving a piece like Crosby, even if it is for a bunch of first round picks.
I just figured out what they're doing. I just figured it out.
Shoot.
I complete 180. I agree with Scott. Here's what they're going to do. They're going to bottom out this year. They're going to lose on purpose. They're going to way overdraft, somebody in the second round and start them at quarterback. And they're going to lose 15 games next year to lock up number 1 pick. They're going to again go draft Arch Manning.
Yep.
To Vegas and have Pete Carroll be his coach for 2 years.
Perfect.
That's what they're looking to do. They're planning to have Arch, and Pete Carroll is perfect to have for that.
And it's the Brady side of things where you have to know that that's what they're thinking about.
Yeah.
How do we position ourselves to get the savior and get it pointed in the right direction before he jumps on the ship for us.
Yeah, and they have to be thinking something like that because they have to compete with Mahomes, who, in my opinion, is the best quarterback I've ever seen, like best at doing quarterback.
First ballot Hall of Famer?
Yes, if he dropped dead tomorrow, he's already first ballot.
He's in. Yeah, he's in.
And then Justin Herbert, who is a year in year out Pro Bowler, not this year because Russell Wilson, of course, but he's a year in year out Pro Bowler.
Of course.
And then Bo Nix is at the very least Derek Carr-esque, Kirk Cousins-esque. He's at least a passable, decent starting NFL quarterback. So you have three decent quarterbacks in your division. You can't be rolling in with veteran retreads or whatever. You have to keep taking swings. There's no swing to take this year. They use the 6th overall pick. They draft everything this year with an eye towards 1st overall pick next year. Get Arch Manning. Let's get it going. And Pete Carroll's a great coach in that case. Shit, Scott, you're right.
But that's the only way that's the only thing that makes any sort of, is it Occam's razor? Kind of like, maybe I made that up. Good
term. No, good term. Good term.
I mean, that's the only way to think about it because there's really no other way to think about it.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we got two more to go here. Jacksonville Jaguars hired Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Liam Cohen with the worst intro press conference since Adam Gase and his crazy eyes. His aura is at absolute 0 after that week Duval he gave. Actually, mine was better.
Yours was.
His was so bad, I can't even recreate it. And also, how do you not study that beforehand? And
his had a question mark at the end of it. That's what it felt like. It did.
Duval?
Yes. Like he was like in the middle of it. Am I saying it right? That's what it felt like. You know?
Personally, if I take a new job, I'm looking up everything about the place I'm going and everything like that, try to figure out who, what, where, and the other. You have to know Duval's the thing there. You know, it's either they're going to ask you to do it or you should just do it right away. Honestly, it's the first thing that should come out of your mouth. You should walk up to the microphone and go, Duval, into the mic, very first thing.
All right, so what is that? Because I don't know.
That's
I'm not a Jacksonville Jaguar.
It's the county that Jacksonville's located in, and it's kind of like the like who day, sort of thing for the Jaguars, right? And so
like the Arkansas Sioux.
Yeah, yes, but
exactly.
At work, people who are from Duval County greet each other with it. Like every morning, it's like, "Good morning, how you doing?" It's Duval. Like it's a thing, right?
Oh, it's like Roll Tide. It's like
yes, okay. Roll Tide is perfect for it. Go Dogs. I mean, Roll Tide is a perfect example. Yeah. And so to come in with imagine I got hired in Alabama and got there was like Roll Tide roll. No, actually, it's going Roll Tide roll. Like,
yeah, I mean it's Brian Kelly-ish from his first presser with the goofy accent. Like
Brian Kelly was worse because he's putting that accent on because he's from the Midwest. He's talking my family, like because his other accent's as bad as mine because they're both from Michigan.
Yeah.
Anyways, he was offensive coordinator for the Bucs this year. Pat Doherty on a Good Football Show for World of World made a good point. He was like, "How do we know that Dave Canales and Liam Cohen aren't just products of Baker Mayfield?" Because once Dave Canales left, we were like, "Well, there goes Baker. He's going to fall off this year." Then he did even better. Maybe Baker's just put it together. He's in a good spot. He's a first overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner. Maybe it's happened for him. He's turned it on, and now every offensive coordinator gets overvalued because everybody thinks they're the ones making Baker.
Look what Canales did with Bryce Young. And how he managed that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But also, Bryce Young, Heisman Trophy winner, first overall pick, maybe just put it together. But I know what you're saying. I'm just saying,
but he needed to get benched, and he managed all that stuff. And,
watching what Ben Johnson did with Jared Goff, you're like, Ben Johnson knows what he's doing. Yes. Watching Liam Cohen with Baker Mayfield is like Baker Mayfield is really good now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul says it's like calling the Hogs.
And I think if you're a Jacksonville fan, you have to be fired up for Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. and Evan Ingram and the other weapons that they have.
You don't have to be fired up for Evan Ingram.
What's that?
you don't have to be fired up for Evan Ingram.
He's a fine option. They just need more, right? So, but specifically Brian Thomas, did you hear what he said about Brian Thomas playing out of the slot?
No, but that's really intriguing.
Go draft everywhere you can. Go get Brian Thomas. He's going to go off.
Well, he's currently a second round pick at the 1-2 turn because Clev fantasy football drafts for 2025 are open.
We haven't played the Super Bowl yet, but we're invested for next year.
Yep, I signed up for my first one today, but they opened on the day these games were played this past weekend. But yeah, I'm in 10 slow drafts right now, and at the 1-2 turn, I had Brock Bowers, Ashton Gene T, and Brian Thomas Jr. all there. I went Gene T and Bowers. Then I'm going to plan to just load up wide receiver like the next 5 picks.
Yeah,
but yes, Cleve, Ashton Gene T has not played a snap in the NFL, nor has he been drafted. He's already a first-round pick in fantasy drafts.
It's nuts.
Wow.
Yeah. Last coach before we get out of here. Dallas Cowboys hire Brian Schottenheimer.
Okay. First, before we get into that, did you guys hear what Jerry Jones said like 2 days ago?
Was it the glory holes thing?
He says, there's a press conference. There's women everywhere asking him questions. And he says something to the effect of, hey, it's not all smiles and glory holes around here.
I was like, what the fuck?
And it's like, what is he trying to say? Does he know what he's saying? I think he knows what he's saying. But wow.
See, the thing is, everybody knows Jerry wasn't at the Diddy parties because they had a lot of black people, so he would never go there. But that's the sort of thing that makes me think that maybe there's Jerry parties, and we need to be a little concerned here.
Oh,
maybe do a little.
Listen, they drive their bus to the combine, and they hang out in the bus at the combine. And if you saw what the kind of talent that's outside waiting to get on the bus to hang out with Jerry and company, it's an impressive pull. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yeah,
and he knows.
Well, what was an impressive pull time? Brian Schottenheimer. This is a total failure of a hire. 51-year-old fail son of Marty Schottenheimer would be extremely lucky to get fired after going 14-2. This guy sucks. The Cowboys are a total joke and a poverty franchise. When it comes to being a serious football organization, they are staring up at the Raiders and Jags.
It's hard to
argue.
McCarthy
didn't get a look.
No, Mike McCarthy said that he's going to wait for his best possible option in 2026.
Yeah. So, Cleve, this is a situation where we talked about earlier about teams that do the quarterback and restructure. They signed Dak to an extension last year, and then they restructured his contract and added like $15 million per year onto his deal. Just pushed it into the future, though, right? So this year's cap hit for Dak is like $90 million. He's got a $90 million cap hit. It's year one of a new contract. So it's like, I mean, Cincinnati might have to do some of that stuff. Burrow's going nowhere. He's young enough that they could do all that stuff with, but still, it's
So the thing with the Dak contract, I was talking to my friend Chris at work about this. She's a massive Cowboys fan, and too young to know the '90s glory days. So all she knows is like this millennium. It's horrible.
Yeah,
and like the problem with Dak is not that Dak is a bad quarterback. It's that Dak has a $90 million cap hit, whereas Jalen Hurts has like a $50 million cap hit, and Jaden Daniels is on a rookie contract. Yes. So they're trying to compete against these other two quarterbacks who are probably better than Dak.
Yep.
And they have more to work with around their quarterbacks than the Cowboys do. So the Cowboys just end up in this really weird place where I think Dak is a fine quarterback that you can win with.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, they are like a solid third place in their division.
Yep. And they need help. They need more. They need
ask the GM. He knows what he's doing. Ask the GM.
Yeah. They need somebody aside from
if they had a GM, honest to God, we would be talking about them in a different light. If they had someone competent at the GM role, like a real GM,
yeah,
it'd be different.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not surprised by this at all. And it's because Brian Schottenheimer hasn't really been a good coordinator anywhere that he's been.
Was he on the staff there? Like, how did he get a look?
He's Marty Schottenheimer's
Was
kid.
he on the staff?
He's been around.
Okay, so DEI.
But but I'm not sure. Like,
that's my new shit. DEI.
I don't
draft every imbecile. The Cowboys DEI.
There you go. I don't know where he came from. I don't know what he's been doing.
He was at the Seahawks for the collapse at the end with Pete Carroll. I know that.
Was he their pass game coordinator? Was he their
OC? I think it was offensive coordinator.
Okay, so he's been around recently, and yeah.
Yeah, and it's sad that the Cowboys are just such a poverty franchise now because they realize they're like the linchpin of the league.
Good, like Dave just laid it out for them.
Yeah, they're in a ton of trouble. Okay, so I'll take care of this week. Next week we're going to preview the Super Bowl. We'll talk about the game, of course. We will also preview our favorite Super Bowl prop bets, either that we've made or that we've seen. And if you guys don't bring any to the table, I will have more than a few. But if you see some out there that you think are really interesting, feel free to bring them as well, because that's always my favorite. And if you recall, the year that the Rams beat the Bengals in LA, I made quite a bit of money betting on the halftime props, thanks to Uncle Ruckus Snoop Dogg himself. So
Uncle Ruckus.
Yeah, so these things can be profitable if you see some good ones out there.
How many should we bring? 3, 4?
Yeah, just whatever. I mean, okay. if you find something interesting out there, whatever. And if you don't, I'll have a few that I find. Also, everybody out there on FanDuel right now, you can get Jackson Dart to be the first overall pick at 75-1. Not financial advice. I did put $5 on it myself. But just remember, if you make a bet and you lose and you complain to us, you got to fight Clev. So. Scott, final words.
I have none.
Clev, final words.
Be safe, everybody.
It's amazing.
Clev, final words.
I got the rematch I wanted. So.
Yeah, you did. You called that one right from the very start.
That's impressive.
Yep. Just for me, thank you everybody who joined us here live tonight. Thank you everybody in the chat. And we will see everybody next week. Peace.